All right, picture this. It's November 1914. You've got no smartphones, no GPS, and definitely no modern high-tech survival gear. In this explainer, we're diving into what is, without a doubt, the most incredible and harrowing survival epic in human history, the 1914 Imperial Transantarctic Expedition. It's an absolute masterclass in human willpower going up against the absolute deadliest forces of nature.
So you really have to ask yourself, how exactly does a crew of 28 regular guys survive for almost 2 whole years in the most brutal, unforgiving environment on the planet? And all this without anyone in the outside world even knowing they were in trouble. There's no helicopters coming for them, no radios to call for backup, nothing. Just these men plunged straight into the freezing unknown, completely cut off from civilization.
But here's the absolute craziest part of the whole shebang. Zero casualties. Every single man who walked into that ice came back out alive. It's an absolute miracle. But, to really understand just how impossible this outcome was, we gotta go all the way back to their disastrous beginning. Section 1. The Ambitious Antarctic Dream. Our story centers on Sir Ernest Shackleton. Now, he was an explorer with a wildly audacious plan. He literally wanted to be the first person in history to cross the entire Antarctic continent completely on foot, which, for 1914, is just a mind-boggling endeavor. The sheer scale of this plan was just huge. Step 1, sail to the Weddell Sea. Step 2, trek 2,900 kilometers straight through the South Pole. And finally, arrive at the Ross Sea. The timeline they budgeted for this? Just 120 days. But, as we're going to see, this massive plan fell apart completely before they even set a single boot on the continent. Section 2, Trapped by the Ice. So, in December 1914, Shackleton gets warned by whalers at South Georgia Island that the ice conditions are unusually heavy. He pushes forward anyway, and by January 1915, his ship, the Endurance, is completely locked in the dense ice of the Weddell Sea. They were stuck? 24 hours of darkness? 9 months trapped. Just imagine sitting in a wooden ship for that long. As the Antarctic winter sets in, they're plunged into perpetual night. You're drifting uncontrollably away from your target. It's minus 50 degrees Celsius outside. Blizzards are raging, and you haven't seen the sun in months. And all the while, the ice is slowly, inevitably squeezing the ship tighter and tighter. And then, the breaking point. October 24th, 1915. The ice crushes the Endurance. The immense pressure of literally millions of tons of ice finally splits the ship right apart. Water rushes in, they pump continuously for days in minus 8.5-degree weather, but it's no use. Shackleton has to give the devastating order to abandon ship, forcing all his men out onto the freezing, floating ice. You can really feel the sheer despair in the air when crew member Tom McLeod looked at the sinking wreckage. That ship was their only shelter, their only link to humanity. And he just says, "I don't think we'll ever get back home." The dream of crossing Antarctica? That was dead. The only goal now was just surviving on an ocean of ice. Section 3. Surviving the frozen ocean. So the crew establishes what they kind of optimistically called ocean camp on a floating ice floe. They managed to salvage 3 tiny rowboats, a sled, and barely 1 month's worth of rations. Their ground is just a fragile piece of ice drifting on a freezing ocean that could snap in half at any second. 2 pounds. When it came time to try marching across the ice, Shackleton became absolutely ruthless about survival. He issued a strict 2-pound weight limit per man for personal gear. He actually threw his own gold coins right into the snow to prove the point. Nothing is more valuable than your life. Though, incredibly, he did let the photographer Frank Hurley save 150 photographic negatives, which is exactly why we can actually see this story today. Decaying meat and melting ice for drops of water. Yeah, things got incredibly grim. As the food ran out, they survived on seal, penguin, and eventually, the sled dogs. Fresh water? Basically non-existent. They literally had to hold chunks of raw ice in tins directly against their own bodies, using their body heat just to melt a few precious drops to drink. They're battling bleeding lips, always just teetering on the edge of hypothermia. 497 days. Let that sink in. That is the unbelievable amount of time these guys were stranded out there on shifting, cracking pieces of frozen ocean before they finally set foot on solid dirt again.
Over a year and a half, completely at the mercy of the ice. Section 4. Escape to Elephant Island. Fast forward to April 1916. Their ice floe literally starts shattering beneath them. Shackleton throws the men into those 3 tiny rowboats. They row like crazy, dodging icebergs, getting hammered by freezing spray, until they finally hit land. Elephant Island. Solid rock, yes, but it's uninhabited, desolate, and way off the shipping lanes. Staying there was basically a death sentence. Okay, put yourself in Shackleton's shoes for a second. How on earth do you save your crew from here? Option 1, Cape Horn, 800 kilometers away. Option 2, the Falklands at 880 kilometers. Or option 3, South Georgia at a massive 1,300 kilometers. Shackleton runs the numbers on the ocean winds and makes this incredibly bold choice. He picks the furthest target, South Georgia, to ride the brutal ocean gales and hopefully reach a whaling station for help. Section 5. The Impossible Rescue Mission. Leaving 22 men behind on that desolate beach, Shackleton takes a small team of 5, jumps into their most reinforced rowboat, the James Caird, and launches right into the deadliest stretch of water on the entire planet. The Drake Passage. We're talking 12-meter waves and hurricane winds in a tiny rowboat. For over 2 weeks, they navigated 1,300 kilometers, bailing freezing water nonstop just so they wouldn't sink. They're soaked, they're sick. A massive storm almost swallowed them completely, but somehow, against all odds, they actually hit the coast of South Georgia Island. Step 1, survive the Drake Passage. Step 2, land on South Georgia. But wait, Step 3, cross uncharted 10,000-foot mountains. Yep, a storm forced them to land on the entirely wrong side of the island. So Shackleton and 2 others do something superhuman. They march non-stop for 36 hours over jagged, unmapped glacier peaks with no tents, no sleeping bags, literally kicking steps into the ice to survive. Meanwhile, let's jump back to Elephant Island. What about those 22 guys left behind? While the second-in-command, Frank Wild, was an absolute rock. Huddled under 2 upside-down rowboats for 128 days, facing starvation and frostbite, Wild would look at his men every single morning and say, "Pack your gear, boys, the boss might come today." It's just unbelievable resilience, and it's what kept them from totally giving up hope. August 30th, 1916, the 4th attempt breaks through. After 3 totally failed rescue missions got blocked by pack ice, Shackleton secures a Chilean ship, the Yelcho, and finally punches through. Can you even imagine the overwhelming relief of those 22 starving men when they look out and see their commander standing on the bow of that ship? He came back, and he rescued every single one of them. 106 years. That is how long the Endurance lay hidden in the icy depths, practically a ghost ship. But in 2022, investigators finally found the wreckage, sitting brilliantly preserved 10,000 feet below the Weddell Sea. It's this incredibly eerie, beautiful monument to what these men went through. So it really leaves us with this powerful question. When faced with your own impossible storms, how far will your determination take you? Shackleton and his crew proved that with relentless leadership and just pure grit, even the most completely impossible odds can be conquered. Thanks so much for hanging out with me for this explainer today, and I'll catch you in the next one.